I'm guilty of this myself, back in the day. And that's all they do. Everybody's kind of doing what they've seen other people be successful at. So I'm trying to build a system that's less of an ad agency brand and more of like a creative agency, although I really appreciate that, Brandon. You and I should talk and exchange some notes, Because ultimately what I'm trying to do is like, yes, you need to be profitable to be a business, but ultimately I just want to help the next, I hate to say the next Summit 1G to become the next Summit 1G, because I think, and this is just my way of thinking, that mode of I'm going to be a really good gamer, go live and get viewership, I don't think that's possible anymore. I think you have to be larger than that. That's probably a whole Devin video, if it doesn't already exist, sheesh. But really what I'm trying to do is help the aspiring content creators get paid while practicing the stuff that they want to practice anyway. Because this was I'll say this, and then I would love to hear other people's thoughts. One of the things that kind of started me on this path was Gary Vee, of course, talking about how the best possible thing you can do is get a job that is at least adjacent to or close to the kind of work you want to do. That way you're sort of double dipping. You're like practicing. If you want to be a content creator, YouTuber person, if you get a job editing videos, that's incredible because you get to practice and get new problems to solve that will help your skill set. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. I'm going to stop talking now. Keep hitting me with stuff, y'all. This is great.
So we're doing well. I'm here. So yeah. So is your core problem still, just in short, like is your core problem basically? I wanted to see if we were still talking about like driving people from. I'm stuck on a single platform. I need to move them to another platform. I'm stuck on Twitch. I need to move somewhere else or whatnot. Is that right?
The core problem, I'm not exactly. The core problem that I'm trying to solve is, regardless of where a content creator is, an aspiring content creator, I want them to be able to have paid work to practice the skills that they would have practiced for free or for Twitch subs anyway. So if somebody is streaming on Twitch and making YouTube videos, they are making it essentially for the people that find them. And the problems they run into are only the problems they see, versus when they work for me or they work for any creative agency, they see, okay, I need you to add this color text with this kind of zoom because client wants this zoom. Maybe this creator I hired to do video editing, short editing, wouldn't have run into that problem, or at least not this soon. But because they're kind of going through that crucible and getting paid, it's like a double-edged win. For
so
them,
the way you're using the word creator is confusing me, because when I think of a creator, I think of a person who's making content. But when you're saying creator, you're thinking of a person who's doing like video editing. I don't think that's a creator. A creator could do video editing, but a video editor is a video editor, and a creator is not a video editor necessarily. Does that make sense?
Good distinction. Yes,
Yeah,
you're exactly correct.
and that matters because it's difficult to understand your business model, because I don't understand that distinction. So like if you're appealing to creators, by which I mean the people who create content on Twitch, YouTube, right? That's one thing. If you're trying to get people like, I'm a video editor that wants to get paid for video editing, that's quite another.
Gotcha. Yeah. And this is actually, you're exactly right that's one of the problems that I'm running into. And I think you were stepped away when I was like saying this. When I've pitched this to Twitch streamers that are making videos for their YouTube channel, for all intents and purposes, video editors, right? They're the ones editing it. And I said, hey, I'll pay you to edit videos for like clientele. I have gotten no yeses. And I pitched 19 different YouTubers, Twitch people, not a very big sample size, but I think that's an overarching industry problem that I'm seeing, is that people are trying to do the comfortable thing. And you were saying this earlier, like,
I think they don't trust your credibility. I think they
fair.
have no reason to go through you, because like I can go to Fiverr and I can get those videos edited for $10-20 a pop. Why trust your email or your direct correspondence? Because I'm listening to you and I'm not sure on the problem you're trying to solve still.
That's great feedback, actually.
I think maybe I just misunderstand the model, but it sounds like you're getting creators who are learning how to like edit and stuff like that, and you're marketing them to other creators who need like an editor.
More like, I'm going to go find the clientele, whether it be a small business or some kind of local shop, whatever it may be, and they need social media managers. They need people to make videos for them. Excuse me.
So
I'm going to go ahead.
It kind of ties to what Devin said, which is like why would I pay for like an amateur to do it when I could just find a professional for like the same price on Fiverr or like Upwork? So that's
That's
kind of
that's
where I'm
entirely
at on
fair.
it.
That's entirely fair. That's a point I hadn't considered. Thank you for that. I will think about
I,
that
I think
I
it's
for
kind of
next
a
have
week.
rough point, but it's also, yeah, definitely something important to consider.
Oh, hey, I'd rather get the rough point here than, months down the line. So,
Laura, is it like does this kind of apply where it's like, let's say we have a bank. A bank has no social media presence. They know that if they did, they would increase their revenue. So they need somebody that basically can manage their social medias, and you're the person finding those people for the bank.
Yeah.
yes. And I'd like those people to be people that make videos for themselves already and they can get paid to practice those skills. Yes.
So I think what you're describing is like kind of half in, half out on being like what I used to do for Bronze, which was essentially just being a PA for her, and then I would find her an editor that fit within the parameters that she desired, and then also an artist and a musician. And then like being a recruiter is a very very valuable skill set in which I think you might actually find some success if you're trying to move your business towards that. And I think that's a real problem that can be solved, and that a lot of these people who are just inundated with their work and their content creation, they do need to start outsourcing so that they can continue creating. So if you are looking
Right.
to actually expand your business, I think you just need to shift a little bit towards being a recruiter and finding the right people, and facilitating that and understanding creators, their vision, and then translating that to editors and artists and everything like that.
I like that. Kind of like in The Founder, the McDonald's movie. Like you're not in the business of selling burgers, you're in the real estate business. Sort of like that. Like a
Yeah.
thinking shift. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like, and this is something that I've talked to other people about, is like finding the right personal assistant for a creator once they get to a certain level is incredibly important, because you're just like a jack of all trades, and that's the function that I fit for a lot of people, is like I'm the linchpin for a lot of projects, because I have such a diverse skill set, in
Right.
management, both from like the military and other places. So I think that that's the niche you're trying to fit, but you didn't quite understand it. So now that you know that, I think you can shift.
This is great feedback, y'all. Thank you.
Can I just verify something here real quick, Laura? When I ask you a question, is make sure so I don't step on my own feet when I try to throw my 2 cents in here. You're essentially finding people that are good at editing but have small channels to edit for big people who don't have time to edit for themselves. Is that kind of the gist of what you're getting at?
That is a good way to put it. Yes, sir.
So, in my personal experience, this is primarily everybody who's been editing content for my YouTube channel. The editors that I've just found have just been most of the time, other YouTubers that are doing editing. I bring them in. They work for me. They last maybe 4 months, 6 months at the longest. And what they quickly, and I'm fine with this because it helps me out anyways, is they realize that they could spend their time editing their own content versus mine
Right.
and grow their own channels. So what you have is you're solving a problem for somebody with a short-term solution, if you will. And when it comes to creating content specifically for YouTube and editors and content creators, that relationship is needs to be more long-term to have really good content, because you got to learn what the creator likes and how they like their videos and stuff like that,
Sure.
and what their relationship is. So I think one of the problems with what you're trying to do is you're going to have people, you're going to bring very short-term solutions for people. It is a solution. You are solving a problem, but the tool you're using to solve that is not a long-term one, unless you get lucky and find somebody who decides to throw in the bag and doesn't want to do content creation anymore and enjoys editing. And that is the only editor I've had that's stuck with me for longer than 6 months, is the one that did that.
Yeah, y'all, this is fantastic. Because really, ultimately, if we can go very top level, the problem that I'm trying to solve is I see too many of my friends that are in the Twitch, YouTube space that are just starving artists, to put it bluntly, And when I say, hey, I'll, here's some ways I've gotten other people jobs, I'll hire it, there are various ways avenues you can market your marketable skills in, not just going live and playing a game, So everybody, thank you very much. This has been very helpful. Helping to zero in on stuff.
That's why we're here, right?
Rather than like working individually with people, I would think of a way of how to, because like a lot of the skills that you're seeing are going to be repeatable, right? So like editing, that's like a skill. I would think of ways of how to teach anyone to transition that skill of like editing to like get actual paid work, and then high level, that would be like what you're trying to work on is like, so like top of funnel is like you're trying to get you're trying to attract content creators that know this skill, whichever skill, and then bottom of the funnel is like whatever product or service you come up with that solves that problem. Like if you know video editing, do X, Y, and Z, that's my product or service, and you'll get from where you currently are as a starving artist to getting paid work, whether that's like full-time job or like freelance. That's kind of like what I would think about.
I think
Right,
one
right.
thing to consider is when you want to onboard these people who are like, let's just say, let's keep one platform like Twitch, these streamers at like, 10 to 15 viewers, and you want to call them to some kind of action. Unfortunately, what you get is you also onboard all of the psychology that those people have, which is often, I've been doing this for X, I'm one stream away from Ninja, or like, I'm not really failing as a starving artist. I'm just, a couple of steps away from diamonds. Like, there's so much. What you're inherently doing is saying like, hey, I'll pay you to kind of get a start and to make to make something happen. But in their minds, I think a lot of the time they're like already started. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of, yeah. So here's a really interesting thing. The number one problem, and I guess like what I'm trying to explain, the number one problem I run into with smaller content creators and I've talked to so many on Twitch and YouTube, 99% of the time, I think it's that high, when I go in and I look at their content, it's utter dog shit. But the real kicker of that is that they don't ever think it's dog shit. Like they're
Yeah.
just like, they'll tell you or they'll argue with you. I've literally had, it fucking happened yesterday. I've literally had people argue with me, like me. They know exactly who I am and everything that I do, and they're like, "No, man, this shit's great." And I'm like, "Well, why do you have 100 followers? Like,
Right.
what's going on? Like, if something's not wrong." So they're not willing to make that shift. And so for that reason, I think you might approach them and be like, "Hey, I've got like a real legit opportunity for you," and you might have that. And they're just like, "Nah, I'm on my way, bro. I got this." Right? Like, so I think what people in the Mastermind chat right now are helping you do, and I think everyone's right on this, is kind of thinking about other ways to attack this problem, whether it be through like education or what Friday's saying right now, which is like making connections and actually like handling the organization part of it and being the middle person rather than like just trying to solve it one-to-one. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, everybody. This has been very valuable. And thanks again, Devin, for facilitating the space.
Yeah, of course. That transaction that just happened is exactly like where everybody kind of hops in and solves a problem, is like exactly what we're trying to do here. So that was great, actually. It's like the best part of this whole thing.
Petition to change the voice chat to brainstorm since we're the mastermind. Okay.
I also forgot to record like an hour and a half of this. So, whoops, that's not going to be on now. It's not going to be on the Patreon, but my bad.
Did you start late though?
Yeah. I started like maybe 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But the other ones will be recorded unless I forget and go on Patreon. Because I think this could, like, so far, what we've talked about in this particular one could have helped a lot of people.
Yeah, you guys got my gears turning for sure. Thanks again, everybody.
Okay, well,
yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
haven't been recording, perfect time to chime in and recap something. Did you record when you were talking about the 4-6? Get rid of them?
No.
Or did you not record? Okay,
Yeah.
so recap that really quick, and then maybe I can build on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. The
I think it's
idea
really
was that if you look at a spectrum of employees that you could possibly hire, or contractors or whatever, you're going to have, let's put that spectrum on a 0 to 10 scale. 10 being the most phenomenal person you can imagine, and 0 being the worst person you can imagine. Most of the people that you're going to hire are going to fall between 4 and 7, where if you put a ton of effort into your 4s and 5s, perhaps the best place you can get them to is like two up the chain. So like maybe you create a 6 or even a 7. But if you spend all of your effort on your 7s and your 6s, you get 8s and 9s and 10s. And the idea here is that an 8, 9, or 10 will exponentially change your business. Anything below a 5 will pull down your business, and a 5 will be neutral at best, but probably also harm things. And a 6 is just kind of like neutral, but a little bit good, does an occasional thing. This is not a... I'm actually going to just expand on this stuff we didn't talk about now that's coming up. This is not something you can afford to do as a business owner. What even larger companies like you see Google and Facebook and all of these companies realizing, what are their CEOs saying right now? They're like, man, we've got a lot of people that aren't doing shit in our company, right? And what, like Samar just went out and said that. Very recently, Mark Zuckerberg said that. So a bunch of these like executives, and now you're going to see this filter down, hopefully everywhere. What's happened because revenue and has been so good over the course of the last 10 years is a lot of people are working and they're not really doing as much as they should be. And the expectations for like what is a job has gone way down, in my opinion. And there's also a really annoying trend that people have, which is I hadn't heard of this until I had it happen to me. I guess you can quit your job and then not tell anybody that you quit your job. And so the idea here is that you just quit and then wait for them to figure it out. And you literally do nothing, but like that's
incredible.
Yeah. And this happens. And so I think that, and I hope, I think what's going to happen in the world in the next 6 months to a year as this recession starts to play out is that people will become a lot more cognizant of the 4s and 5s, and the standards that we hold people to will be higher by virtue of the fact that we just do not have the revenue to pay for these people. Like if it is costing your business to maintain a full-time employee that is not performing for you, you're doing a disservice to your business and to that person, and I'll get to that in a minute, by not letting them go. Why do I say to that person? Because if that person isn't a fit at this company, then they're not growing themselves at all, right? Like there's nothing good that's coming in besides a paycheck to that person. Whereas, and they're not happy because I 1-to-1, every employee I've ever let go from a company didn't really like their job. I'm trying to think of like a single time where I fired a person and they were like, holy crap, I love being here. Again, I think it would just be ethical considerations. So there were a couple of times in esports where somebody made a massive mistake ethically, and I was basically forced to fire them because to not do so would have been real messed up. Like they did something so like egregious that I couldn't go any other way, like HR shit. So those people like really like to work there, but just did something untoward. But everyone else, like they don't like their jobs anyway. So I do think that like your 4, 5, and 6s, you need to get out of the company as soon as possible. And then you work on your 7 and 8s and your strengths. This is sort of a classic teeter-totter in business, right? Do I work on my weaknesses or do I work on my strengths? And in life. I would say you work on your strengths and you delegate or figure out other people who have strengths in other places to handle your weaknesses. Yeah.
Hey, Devin,
Yo.
could you kind of expand on what you're talking about right now? I guess expand, but maybe the wrong word, but with Jocko's whole philosophy with extreme ownership and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that you're contradicting that. How do you reconcile those two? Because I know you've read about his books and you're a follower of his as well. Just from leadership, I thought that constantly was what you're talking about, dealing with 4s and 5s and trying to get them up to par just to be productive members of the team.
Yeah.
And then, but having to, I guess, where do you get to that point? Like you said, 100%. When you fire one of those guys or you get rid of them, the first thing you realize you should have done it a long time ago.
Right.
How do you reconcile between that, between that whole philosophy of extreme ownership versus, hey, this guy just ain't going to make it?
I know that you asked Devin. I'm just going to say Jocko's team was always Navy SEALs. So they're always exceptional.
Have you read any of his books?
I have read that book. Yeah.
So
'cause
Jocko,
Jocko does
yes,
a lot of
they've
stuff in
teamed with the
corporate
other
now,
soldiers,
so
right?
Jocko runs a company called Echelon Front, which is a consulting company for large corporations that that deals with like a lot of the principles that he espouses in those books, like leadership, ownership, things like that. Okay, so I'll actually answer this question like Jocko would answer it. Okay, so like what Jocko would say is he would say that your hiring of that person, that part of that equation, is the failure in ownership there. So you own that hire. You are the person who made that decision, who brought that person to the company, and likewise are doing them a disservice by not firing them, because it's still your fault if you brought a poorly working I don't know how to say that, a poorly working person into the company, right? So like if you hired a person who's an underperformer, no matter what the reason is, you did so, and that's your fault. Now, I think the question that you're getting at, though, is more along the lines of, could a 4 be a 7 if your management style was perfect? And that's a good question. like how basically your initial question was basically like how much of the
that's a better way of putting it, because I ran into both, right? I ran into guys that were 3 or 4s, but it was just because you were trying to make a fish climb a tree, to use an old euphemism. And they ended up being 9s when you put them in the right spot and gave them the right guidance. And then I had guys that were 4s and 5s that didn't matter what you did, they stayed 4s and 5s because that's what they wanted to do.
So and those are the guys that you get out. But like there is a question of like, okay, if I ran my sales team better, how much more effective on the 0 to 10 scale would these people be? The answer isn't. The answer is, I think the key here is that the answer isn't like a 3 to 5 point jump, right? So like, assuming that I'm a perfect manager, if I have a salesperson who just can't figure it out and they're at a 3, maybe at a perfect management scenario, I can get that person to like a 5 or a 6, but again, think about the amount of work and effort it takes to get that person involved. If there's one overarching theme of this chat, it is that, for me, it's that success and failure both leaves a lot of clues. And particularly if you have a employee who is capable of like the 8 to 10, right, which is going to be like 1 in every 10 people you hire, if you're lucky, then that person will thrive almost regardless of environments. And I don't think like there's like an 8 hidden underneath a bad management stack. And let me tell you why. I think that 8s or 10s don't tolerate that. True performers are not the people. Like, you'll hear like those stories of like people that are like, I've been under this manager, they suck, like this sucks, like I could be doing so much more, I work so hard, I add 80-90% of the value to the company and nobody knows. More often than not, those people are losers, right along with the manager that's there too. And that kind of like tough thing to say is a real 8 to 10 is working on a team and seeking out people that are as motivated and powerful and successful as they are, because that is one of the hallmarks of people in that category of people, right? Like if you strive for excellence, really strive, you're not going to tolerate people around you that don't for long. So I think that context should make it easier to identify when somebody is like stuck or not. The real challenge becomes if you have somebody who is trying to achieve at a high level and they just can't seem to make it happen, but they really, really are trying. That's when there's a little bit more vagary here, and I've dealt with that before, and it's particularly poignant in esports, where like you will see a player who is really, really. I can think of one person who has a long career in the LCS, is really, really trying to be good, but is just consistently underperforming. And he started off on an LCS team. He joined a couple more LCS teams. He couldn't make it happen. He went down to academy and like now I think is there in some way or might not even be playing. And the lesson there was there can be people that are super motivated and have every passion to try to succeed, and they're still going to be in the 4 or 5. It's a hard motherfucking fact, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I think the best of us as leaders want to improve every single person that we touch in some way. But sometimes you have to realize that that person, even with all of their good intentions, is just not going to make it, right? Yeah, it's really that's the really tough ones. Those are some of the considerations I would say are there for that. It's a really good question.
Yeah, what I was going to add to that is right now you're talking about just that person doing that person a disservice. But if you have actual people who are 6 and 7s who could become a 9 or an 8 or a 9, and then you put them in a situation where they have to now carry the 4, and they didn't sign up for that, then you're going to maybe make your person who's a 6 or a 7 say, screw this. If that guy's getting away with stuff, I'm going to perform at a 4. Apparently that's okay.
100%. Oh my God, I agree so much with this. If you
It's literally
create
me.
a culture where you can turn an 8 into like a 5. Yeah, like if you create a culture where the expectation is not to excel and succeed, you can turn winners into losers. But turning losers into winners is way harder. So like that I guess that's kind of the problem, right? It's like why there's a lot of entropy in business and why there's a lot of failure is because like like Pluritude said, either that 8 or 9 is just like, I don't have to be an 8 to survive here, so I just won't be, because I'll dedicate that success to other places, like fitness or my family or anything else. Like that's what I'd do, right? Like if I am getting an easy ride in one place, I'll devote that success energy into something else that's going to benefit me because I can get away with that. Versus losers will tend to bring everything down, and it doesn't work that way, vice versa. So like you have to keep a really iron grip on your culture, because if you don't, and then by the way, people will be like, okay, well, I'm at that point. Like I have to, I'm living this right now. You know, your answer is, well, you've probably got to fire everybody and restart. I think it's that cut and dry.
Phoenix can rise from the ashes, right? Burn it all down, start over.
Burn the dead wood.
Yeah. You have to. One of my favorite articles ever written is one I can never recommend because it's from a blog that's like a red pill blog. But it describes, I'm gonna go try to find it. I'll link it here. So much of this person's content is not to be regarded seriously, but this particular article, which is which regards like the mentality that people have, is really fucking good. And I'm going to describe like my take on it, but I've read this article like multiple times and like taken in what it means. The way he describes loser mentality is like, imagine multiple crabs in a bucket and one starts to try to crawl out. Another crab grabs him and pulls him back down. And you're just stuck in this bucket because most of us, we surround ourselves with people that are not going to encourage us. Or like a really classic example of this is like if you've ever been in a family situation and you're trying to make a change, like you're trying to make a change for the positive, and your family actually fucking holds you back. They want the best for you, but like you're like, I'm going to try to lose some weight. Oh, you don't need to do that. You look fine. right? Or like they're projecting their own insecurity onto you because they themselves don't want to see you like separate from the pack. That's scary, and it might challenge their beliefs. So oftentimes in life, we have friends and family and people that are actually trying to pull us down. It's the exact reason I tried to create this, which is the opposite of that. It's pulling people up, right? When you become conscious of that, you've got to get the fuck out of that bucket any way you can. And if you're, and so I think the reason I bring all this up is because it's really, really important to understand the mindset of a 1 to 5. Okay. A 1 to 5 victimizes everyone around them. They think that everything else is go to like one of the things that I really had to breed out of myself was I had a really toxic relationship with Reddit in that and it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything dramatic. I was just going to all and scrolling through posts. But what I realized was like the vast majority of people on that website and many websites like it, they contrast their experience of the world to the fault of others that are not themselves. An absolutely perfect example of this, if you ever want to go there into the dark dimension, is our anti-work. Okay, which is a subreddit devoted to people who feel like work like shouldn't. Like basically, it's just a victimized subreddit of everybody blaming their bosses for everything, and you have to realize that like the 1 to 5 crowd are probably the people posting on this subreddit. They legitimately think that everything is everybody else's fault, and then they guilt trip anybody that tries to break that mold. When the reality is that if you want to achieve anything in your life, like Airwing Marine was saying with Jocko Willink and why his message is so important, you have to take personal ownership that the buck stops with you. So the very virtue that the 1 to 5 can't do that is alarming enough to get a reason to get them out of your company and your life. Because if you don't, you get pulled right down there with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Can I tell a quick story that
Yeah,
kind
of
of
course.
piggybacks off that? When I was in my early 20s, failed out of college, played too much WoW, raid leader, the whole thing. Was working at a restaurant, Ruby Tuesday, if you remember Ruby Tuesday. And I remember a moment where I was, yeah, exactly. I had inverted my sleep schedule, unironically, going to bed as the sun was up. It is not, I'm not proud of it. I think back to it as fond memories of the man I used to be, you know. Was working at Ruby Tuesday. I made $30 over a 12-hour shift, one of those close open shifts. And I'm rolling silverware. And I was like, man, I only made $30 today. I can't keep doing this. How in the world am I going to live? I was dating a girl at the time, and it's like this light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, that's what school's for. This was a couple years after I failed out of college. It sounds weird. I was never told or never really got that's what school was for, you know? So like then, in every spare moment, I started listening to podcasts, started, you know, Gary Vee, some of Grant Cardone, you know, there's some motivation in there. All the motivational guys you would typically see. Listening to them, trying to better my life, trying to study stuff. And then 10 years later, I'm a director at an ad agency, married to my lovely wife. We're not comfy monetarily, who isn't, or who is rather, you know, with this housing market, sheesh. But I think back to those days and I'm really, really happy. And this is not a like stoke my own ego thing. This is like exactly what you're saying, Devin. You can do it. You just got to make the decision to get out of the mud and just move one step at a time. I hate the cliches, but damn it, that is it. It's discipline every day. And that's one of the things I loved about your recent videos, Devin. That lab video, let me freaking tell you. Okay. That is the way. So just some encouragement for y'all based on my story. I used to be, you know, a crab. Okay. And now I'm not a crab. So, or less of a crab, I guess.
I think, yeah, like I was thinking you have to look at the mindset and along these lines, right? Like, why does somebody operate in like the 1 to 5 category? Like what happens is they internalize that they're a victim, either of circumstance, environment, government, whatever the fuck. They always have a story, right? And then through that, they excise any personal blame. If it is the Democrats holding me down, then I don't, and I can't make it happen. The economy is too hard. The Republicans are trying to stop food stamps. The Democrats are trying to stop this. The work for the economy is there's always a story. Story doesn't matter. What matters is they're internalizing this feeling of lack of control, oppression. This just like I'm out of control. What's this feeling of like why do so many people have anxiety and depression these days? They feel out of control of their circumstances, right? And then through that, even to some extent, there are legitimate conditions. I want to acknowledge this, but to some extent, anxiety and depression themselves are ways to forfeit control, because by saying, but especially if you identify with it as an illness, and you say this is taking over my life. I can't stand outside of this. When you internalize that, nothing, and that doesn't, and then you're basically saying, okay, this isn't my fault. This is the fault of XYZ, whatever it is. So then it becomes comfortable, because your reality is that your shortcomings can be justified by all of these external factors, instead of being like, oh shit, I'm fucking up, I got to do something. That's what people don't realize is, like, the more that you offload your problems onto other things, and you victimize externally, the harder it becomes, exponentially harder it becomes to be successful, because you get further and further away from, to the point where it's impossible for a lot of people to actually be like, okay, here's how I can shore this up and how I can improve it.
This isn't
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna chime in. It's not directly like a business example, but so I run an educational YouTube channel for video games.
Awesome.
And it's crazy how 99.9% of the player base, it feels like, is just convinced they can't rank up. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Because like their teammates are holding them back, whatever XYZ reason. And what I always say about those players is they're uncoachable. You can't help them until they like get rid of that mentality in their head that it's like, I have no responsibility. Like I can't, like it's out of my control. It's super frustrating to listen to just constantly, but like, yeah, some people you just can't help at that point. Like until you get them out of that mentality that it's not their fault. Like,
it's really crazy too that this actually occurs at very high levels of professional play as well in gaming, where you can take a professional player that could be 20% or 30% better, or like even a world champion, and it's these mindset things that are holding them back, right? They're victimizing, they're doing these same problems just at like a higher level. It's always a matter of that, right? And not a matter of like whatever people think it is, whatever, like, you know, external reason they have. Like in esports, we got to see this a lot, where once I got good at it, I could see that a lot of the players, it was so interesting, man. Oh my god, you get like why is one LCS player just fucking phenomenal, and then another one, like, because if you look at like an esports team, the environment's exactly the same. All 5 players are being coached exactly the same. They have exactly the same resources. They have exactly the same attention. There's like it's like, given that rubric, everybody should perform about as well. But the mindset difference changes everything, and you can produce a top player, and because a person is internalizing a lot of the concepts we're talking about right now. But you can also produce like a literal dog water player for the same exact reason. They're internalizing the opposite. And I saw this over and over again until I became convinced. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, but this was like front page Reddit thread, like big fucking controversy, when I'm like, there's no fucking such thing as natural talent. Doesn't exist. And I still believe that to this day. I've never, I don't believe in natural talent at fucking all, because I just saw over and over again that the principles that governed somebody's success were entirely dependent on how they approached the problem. and the mindset and the determination and the discipline that it took to continuously approach that problem until they solved it.
What I think is crazy is just how dangerous it can actually be to convince yourself that you're good at something, like in a weird way. Like you should
Yeah.
feel confident that you're good at something, but some of the players who are like trying to go pro that I know, they start convincing themselves that they should be pro. They're like better than these guys, they're better than those guys, and it's like maybe they are, but like it's not helping them improve. Like convincing themselves that they're better than these players, they have to like look what they can take and look how they can improve themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Braden. Thanks for being here. Yeah, we're 2.5 hours over. Like I was saying, I was gonna do an hour and a half. We're quite a ways.
So we're halfway done with the new Devin video.
Exactly.
I did want to talk about something briefly, as so long as we're talking about teams and what's so important about fostering the right environment. If you're okay with that, Devin.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So a lot of what I have attributed to my success throughout my life and whatever career that I've been engaged in has been finding the right talent, and then I use talent, but I mean it's really the right people and the right mentality more than anything else. And then if you're building a team, it doesn't necessarily matter where their skills are at, as long as they're at the base level. And then from there, you can grow together, which is absolutely what you should be doing if you are just starting out in an area or you're at a certain level. You just need to find people with a similar mindset and direction. And then once you're organized, you can create a lot of great stuff and break a lot of barriers down together. I think people get stuck in the trying to reach for the stars kind of thing, where they're like, they might be looking at creators who are way out of their range to talk to. I mean, send the cold email. I mean, I have gotten responses and like worked with a lot of people I didn't think I was going to work with because I'm not afraid of no. But I think for the most part, as long as you are, as they say, a real one, and you actually help people that are to your level succeed as well, then that's going to do you a lot more dividends than anything you can do on your own. And you're going to advance whatever it is that you're working on a lot faster with other people. It's always better with other people, I find.
Okay, two different thoughts there. Because I actually think that since we're talking about teams and like hiring people, maybe controversial take, but like, okay, one of the things I thought about a lot especially when I started hiring a lot of people, do you want to hire people that are motivated and getting started and build a skill set with them? Or do you want to hire people that are highly experienced? And I realized that like sort of the meta type thinking is we want to hire people that are like new blood, very motivated and learning their skills. I actually think that hiring the experienced person beats that out every time. And like, if you could get a person who really understands what they're doing, and you pay much more for that, getting a better professional is going to be better every single time. I think like we actually don't strive enough to hire for excellence and to look for excellence. And there's a classic cliche from a lot of like old business leaders, like Andrew Carnegie type people, that you should be hiring people more intelligent than you are. I actually like, after years of running businesses, understand that more intimately and think that's true. I've tried to pull a lot of people in that I thought that were kind of like getting started, and every time it's been a drain on my resources that was much larger than I expected, and I didn't get good outcome from it. There's some of you might remember I used to get asked a question quite often when live streaming, which was like, would you hire me as an intern? And I have an absolute zero intern policy ever since Novo. But I never told anybody the reason for that. The reason for that was because we hired a shitload of interns into CLG, and all of them were worthless, like bar none to a T. We instead pay a person, hold them to certain expectations, and then they meet those or they exceed them or they don't, and you can make much better decisions. So like I actually think like hiring like exceptional people and looking for exceptional people everywhere and keeping your standards really high is like a good thing.
Okay, so 100% agree with what you just said, which is counter to my point. I think more what I meant to say then was when I'm working with other people who are creators adjacent to me, that's what I'm looking for is attitude and people that are at my level. But if I'm hiring people, then absolutely hire professionals.
Yeah, I would agree from a content creation standpoint that you absolutely should not take any nods from from very large creators. That's a super overlooked thing that a lot of people make a mistake on. The problems that a multi-million subscriber YouTuber has or like a 10,000 viewer streamer has are not at all the problems that a 10 viewer streamer or whatever has. In the exact same way, in the business world, it's actually not good to compare yourself or to take nods from people that are like I don't think there's much to learn from Andy Jassy at Amazon. Like he's a great executive and he has a lot of good things to say maybe about mindset and discipline. But in terms of like looking at Amazon as a company on what to do and then inferring from that like how we can run a better company, it sounds like probably to everybody in this call that's like a dumb thing to do, and it sounds like that because it is right. Like but then yet we do that with people that are like 100x our ARR, and it's like, okay, how's this gonna work? And they're like, I don't know, like because I'll tell you this, like having run a business at like, okay, right now, we're like $40,000 or $50,000 a month out in expenses, and I think CLG at the point that we sold it was like $600,000 to $700,000 out in expenses. Man, is that a different business? The problems, the way I run it, the amount of work, the type of work I do, everything is completely fucking different. So like you earning your first $1,000 in the month versus like $10,000 versus $15,000 versus $100,000 is a completely different problem. And so comparing yourself to creators who are moving up really fast next to you is like probably the best thing you can do for sure. Is there anything in particular anybody else wanted to like really nail down? Because I think we're over time, and I want to make sure that I do more of these. And so if I stay here for like 6 hours, like I think this is really, really good so far, and I'm actually like really impressed how good it is. We've been crushing it. There's so many good topics that came up today.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So most of the conversation today has been in the perspective of like hiring and stuff, but I'm kind of on the flip side where I'm doing the sort of work. So as you know, but as information for everyone else, I do thumbnails for basically my part-time thing, and this is a kind of not really hasn't been what we've been talking about, but the main kind of bottleneck I've been getting at right now is access to bigger content creators.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I think a lot of them are lazy, or not lazy in a sense, but at least on the Twitch side, they kind of like, I'm just rambling at this point. So I'm just going to say, like, how could I get more connecting towards like these bigger content creators?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the example that the best example of this was Albert, I think, the guy that built a YouTube video editing company based on creators on Twitch. And the way he did it was he produced full-blown videos for people for free without asking to their emails. And then I think eventually scored Lily Pichu, who then just told everybody, and the rest is history. And in the exact same way, what I would do is I would design high quality thumbnails for people with no expectation of return, and then try every method you possibly can to get it in front of them. DMs, Twitter, email, right? Their chat. And you will waste your time like a lot, and it might not go anywhere. They might not use it, or they might use it for free and never get back to you. But the thing about that kind of business is you only need to hit one home run, and you're working with like, somebody with like 5 million, 10 million subs, and then your answer is, hey, can you recommend me to 2 or 3 people who would also use this service? Because everybody at that level knows each other. So I would say that you put in a lot of initial equity in the form of time to make that work. And then once you hit your home run, all that shit will fall into place. And yeah, what Sonic said is worth thinking. A lot of bigger, Twitter is amazing for getting in front of big creators. It's like the secret sauce. If you abuse it, you're fucked. But if you have something of real value, every single creator reads obsessively their Twitter. Why? Because they're all fucking narcissists. They read every message. I guarantee you that like even a creator at the level of like, I'd say like Hassan or like Mizkif reads every incoming DM they get. They may not respond or react to it, but they read it because they cannot help but try to understand what everyone thinks of them. Okay, so if you can design a very high quality, and by the way, I wouldn't target like 20,000, 30,000 viewers, streamers, or like huge YouTubers. I would target mid-range because those people already have teams. Like, right? Like if you're sending a highly edited video to Pokimane, highly edited thumbnail to Pokimane, she's got it figured out. Like she's got 14 people for that. Like waste your time. But if you go to like a 5 to 10,000 concurrent viewer streamer, or like a 150,000 to 500,000 YouTuber, you might get much luckier. And if you are approaching YouTubers versus Twitch streamers, you might be looking for more like, it might be more of like a feedback type sale where it's like, hey, I designed this for you. I thought this was good. Do you think this is good? Like, I'm trying to get into business starting this stuff. You're a lot of people when they sell themselves the wrong way. And they come in with the ask where they're like, right hook, I do this, will you hire me? Whereas a lot of times you can get the same exact result by going to somebody and saying, hey, I would love your feedback on this. I'm trying to get into this as a profession, but I'm trying to get help to do it better. And then that person will be like, oh, you're trying to do this as a profession? Here's how I can help you. You don't have to directly say that you're looking for a job from them. So one of the best techniques for getting hired somewhere, by the way, is you go into a place and you meet with the highest level executive that you can, and you say, I'm really trying to learn about this business and learn about more about it. Why? They might ask. Well, because I'm really passionate about it. Are you looking for a job? No, not necessarily. I actually really just want to learn about it. And I mean, if it leads to that or whatever, great. But I would walk out of here, no job. I just want to know what you know. And if you word it that way, the amount that people will hire you is like fucking ridiculous. It's actually such a life hack. We years and years ago, I wish I'd recorded this. I did a challenge with our community, and the challenge was to go interview. And I actually participated in this challenge. I did like 3 or 4 job interviews this way. And the challenge was to go interview using this technique. And like to a man, like almost every single person got hired, including me at 2 different locations. I got hired at a credit card auditing company and at a fucking hotel. And like in the same week interviewing, just going to like, I went to the concierge desk of a hotel and I said, can I speak to the manager? Manager comes out. I said, hey, I'm looking to learn more about the hotel business. I'm thinking of getting into it and going for a college degree. First question, are you looking for a job? No, I really just want to learn more. Okay, cool. And then at the end of that, and then by the way, you conduct the entire, thanks Airwing Marine for being here. Like you conduct the entire conversation. You're not bullshitting with that idea. And legitimately, if all you do is learn and they don't offer you a job, well, you just learned a shitload about the thing you're interested in. So that's good, right? You go to them, and then but 9 times out of 10 they'll be like, man, I really like you to work here. You're very motivated. You don't care about like wanting something from me. So in the exact same way, I think you can approach YouTubers who are much more cognizant of things like good thumbnails and shit like that, and be like, any feedback about getting into this business, asking me the same question that you asked them the same question you asked me. I think that motivates people to help you a lot more.
We had that conversation about like 4s to like 7s earlier too. And I guess I have little experience as a hiring manager, but like in the last year, like if I had an 8 slide into my DMs with like something really good, like I'd hire him on the spot.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I
To
think
this-
that people don't recognize all companies are
Right.
looking to hire good,
Yes.
like talented people all the time.
To
Like,
this day, if somebody sent me like a kick-ass thing, it just happened. Okay, like Raxif was literally like, "You don't have YouTube Shorts. It makes me angry. I'm gonna go get them done." And the dude, I don't know what he did. I think he went to Fiverr, and he got these great YouTube Shorts done. And now we have YouTube Shorts, and there's a deal he and I are doing now with that. He literally just threw me the idea, and I was like, "Yep, makes sense. Let's do it. Awesome." And I've been super happy with it, right? And this like just happened last week. Like that opportunity, you have to assume that every single person is always looking for high performing partnerships and collaborations and opportunities. Every single person, even Mark Cuban, even bazillionaires are looking for that kind of stuff, right? So it's just how much value you can provide those people. And like if you can solve a person's thumbnail problems completely, right? Like maybe your system needs to be better where it's like, hey, like I'll do these for your entire YouTube channel and I want X. Like when it comes to the time, again, like you're providing value before you get to that part of the conversation, but when it comes to that negotiation, it's like I can solve this whole problem for you. Then like that's like a firm sell if people are confident you could do it. People are always looking for, like what Casey said, people are always looking for like the highest tier talent, like people that can solve problems for them. For sure.
Yeah, I like the reframing of instead of like an ask type of question, it's more like of a mentorship kind of question because probably people are more interested in helping people out than trying to see how they can help them. And yeah, I also like the point where you talked about like how I can go to the creators I'm already working with and see how if I could solve any other problem that for people that they know. I think you mentioned you do that with or at least you did that with Novo, where you would talk to a client or you'd talk maybe at the end of sale, you would be like, hey, is there anyone else I could help do the same thing with? And I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's once you get in front of somebody, like once you have clients, that's a Jay Abram concept is like the number one way that you can get more clients is just ask people. And people that are just like, that's so stupid, but like it works every time. Like if I think about me, right? Like I know every agent in this space. So it's like, hey, we worked with you as an agency. Would you recommend another agency that in my case it'd be like, no, they're all dog shit, but you know what I mean? Like I know, like it's actually not even true. Like I guess a better example is like lawyers. So lawyers in this space that either do like entertainment law or they do esports type of stuff. I have a few like people that they ask me all the time, like, hey, would you recommend me to someone else that needs a lawyer or actually a CPA also? That's another one that I recommend out a lot. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, of course. Yeah, I've got that person right here, right? So asking a professional, can I get another professional that does what you do and like would also benefit from this? They always know people, and that's one of the best ways you can tap somebody if you've done a good service for them. That's like the sort of digital way of like a restaurant being like, leave us a Google review, right? And it's so funny how like actually one of my latest like themes has been thinking about how we apply stuff that happens every day in the we should leave it with this. This is like a cool thing to kind of close out. Like thinking about how stuff that we do every single day in the traditional like brick and mortar world actually applies like digitally. So example I'll use is Jasmine and I we're going out to a Mediterranean restaurant last night. They're just opened. They are like they've got some like kind of like really cool Arabic food. The dude was actually example I used in the beginning of this was a person that I knew prior who had run another business. And when I go out, like they're super nice. They are like, hey, here's a baklava in the house, like a dessert, and like thanks for being here. And if you really like the place, leave a Google review, tell more people about us. Well, you better believe I did, right? Like because he asked me to, and he provided something of value to show me why I ought to, as well as a good experience. If you do a good thing for your customer, you should not be remiss to ask them with some kind of call to action to let people know. That applies to content creation, it applies to business, it applies everywhere. One of the most effective things you can do as a broadcaster is literally ask people to follow. The number of times that we've seen this work, like on Twitch, is insane. Right? It's so stupid. People are like, hey, you guys should follow the stream. Bam, 1 million follows. And the better that call to action is, like if you provided value, how many times like in my YouTube videos do I do like those call outs, 20 minutes in, like, yo, you guys are the real OGs. And then I'll do a CTA, subscribe, or like head over to the Patreon, check it out if it benefits you, right? And how do I temper that? How is that tempered? Like it's $5 for 70 fucking videos. Where else are you gonna right? That's a fucking I'm kind of mad that like I should be charging, right? But that was never intended to be that. It was never intended to be a thing that charges people. It was intended to be a replacement for Twitch subs. It just ended up being 70 videos because I love talking about this shit. But there you go. Provide that value and then don't be afraid of that ask. Every single person in this phone call, no matter what you're doing, you can take that away. You make that ask of a person after providing that value and they will deliver for you by that virtue.
Devin, what can we do for you?
You're here, man. That's just like succeed. Don't worry about that. Thank you for asking, but no,
Sign up at nexus.novo.tv right now.
You could, yeah, if you're a creator. I will to close it out. I will say, I am absolutely floored by and this is like something that everybody says, right? But like, I actually genuinely was like, the Patreon's going to be a thing where we get like 50 people that are like OG Twitch subscribers that would like to keep their Twitch sub and are just like chill with it, and it ended up being this whole other thing to the point where like especially for like the first few months, I just had to figure out how to like provide value. Like I was like man, like I didn't even know like this was a thing. So for people that have wanted to do that, and wanted to be here, I'm so grateful. Seriously, like it's awesome, and it's enabled so many cool things to come. Now the Patreon's like indistinguishable from what it was when it launched. Like we've got over 70 videos on it. We're starting these mastermind sessions here, which this first one was fucking awesome. The chat is fucking great. We've got like a bunch of like what we read type stuff going out. So this is always just going to keep evolving. But yeah, like you say, what can I do for you? But in my mind, everyone here is already doing a fucking enormous amount. Because I can now funnel that money. Like I just put quite a bit of money into YouTube Shorts. So there's going to be a YouTube Shorts channel being launched. Like tomorrow, we're going to put up the first video. And the YouTube itself has gotten so much infinitely better. I've been able to pay people more in the lab, and I'm continuing to be able to raise those prices. So like thumbnail people will get better. I was able to implement a thing where now the people that are making thumbnails there, you get paid even if your thumbnail isn't selected. So like the first person that makes the thumbnail and the second runner-up gets paid as well. So like there are so many things I've been able to do because of the Patreon, and I'm just really grateful. So if you guys liked this, like tell me in Mastermind chat what like and like if how it could be improved or if you want it better structured or anything. And I hope I'll see you guys all again next Friday for this.
Thanks, Devin.
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank
so
you
much.
everybody for being here. We'll see you guys next time.
That's great.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Have a great weekend, y'all.
See ya, you too.